Good afternoon, guys. Sorry we had to do the handover video, but hopefully it will be nice and easy for you guys here on in. So we are going to start with this top switch by the door well. Hit that one. If you look up, everything has now been switched off in the caravan. So this will isolate your 12-volt power. Of course, there are a few items that are going to remain on, but all your general 12-volt power is isolated with that top switch. This bottom switch is just switching on and off that step light that is not isolated through this switch, just so it can come back at night time, not trip over, and have at least one light on. Your fridge will be run solely, so it is not put through the inverter, so as long as you've got plenty of charge in your batteries, your fridge will still run. Any solar panels will always be active. As long as you have sun rays, you will have solar going into the caravan. If you have direct 240 plugged into the side of the caravan, batteries are still going to charge. Anything with direct 240 power will still remain active. And of course, if you have an inverter in the caravan, the inverter will not turn off other than by your physical touch. So this switch is isolating 12-volt power. 12-volt step light will stay on. Fridge will stay on. 240 will stay on. Solar will still stay active. And of course, there may be a few smaller items in the caravan like your 12-volt Sirocco fans. Otherwise, when traveling, storing, or just conserving power for a few hours, hit this top light switch. So we'll go through some of the little bits and pieces. We won't over confuse it from the get-go. So you can clearly see you got the clamps right the way around the window frame. And just push it out nice and gently until you hear that first click, and then you can let go and it will hold itself steady there. So you have 3 clicks for all your windows, but of course even on that first one it's quite wide open. So push it back to get it closed. Then you are able to use these small grooves in the left and right of the window frames. This is going to allow a fair bit of airflow through the windows. Just make sure you chuck that fly net over so no flies, midges, stuff like that get in. Otherwise, for travel and storage, I need all of these clamped right the way around and the blind and screen left open for travel and storage, just so they don't wear out the retractors in the side. Otherwise, we'll have a look at this hatch up top. Now this one's clearly open, so all you have to do is bring this handle a bit further forward and make sure it clicks over that button for travel. To disconnect it, just as simple as pushing that button and releasing the handle. So that's how we want that for travel. Now for your dust hatch or pressure hatch, if you would, this one's as simple as as pushing that hatch up to allow positive air pressure into the caravan while you are driving. So you will notice if you've had a caravan before, you'll get a lot of dust through all of your vents, constantly sucking in. This device here is going to hopefully help stop a lot of that dust. So if it's raining, there's a lot of moisture in there, it clearly looks like it's going to be a bit wet later, don't use this one. You're not too worried about dust if it is wet or raining outside. So if you are going off-road, you want to make sure you've had this open on-road for at least 5 kilometers of driving. Just so when you hit that dirt road, you're pressurized, you're not worrying about sucking in any dust. Only time it will not work in that circumstance is if you're in a convoy. So if you hit that dirt road with a whole bunch of other people in front of you, that dust is going to kick really high up and it's going to suck in through this. So just be mindful of that. If you're not confident, just shut that one. Alright, so we have the TV located underneath the bed, right next to the DVD player box, which will have headphones and a remote. And also under here we then have the diesel heater. So there's really bugger all you can do with these diesel heaters or gas heaters, whichever one it is. Besides, make sure you have the right fuel source, so your gas or your diesel, then switching the unit on. So you want to hold that in for about 2 to 3 seconds. And you'll see now that the little red LED has come on. You have a 34-minute timer there, 25 degrees. Click that in. You can see those little lines is referring to the heater. Click that in again. And then we can go further through, set your time. Now this one here, I personally would prefer to just go through manual. It is very, very simple. But go through manual and it would just show you how to set the timer and set the right temperature. Otherwise, just to turn it off, hold that button in for a further 2 seconds. So as long as you have diesel and you've switched it on with the timer, this will function nice and easily. So we won't worry about putting this all back together at the moment. So generally you want to leave the TV in the box under the bed for travel. If not, tuck the nice flat corners into the rear part of the couch cushion. Just make sure it's nice and sturdy. Just tuck it in there on the rear side. So you have got the outside entertainment hatch as well. So anything you can do inside, you can also do outside. So we just slot that one up. So of course it is a smart TV, so you can hotspot to it, you can get a USB with movies, anything you like. All you have here is the aerial going up to the wine guard aerial here, and of course the 12-volt power. Plug those in when you go cross country, just auto tune the TV and get all your channels back nice and easy. Otherwise you can see the wine guard plate here with your arrows on how to wind up and wind down. So we'll go all the way up. Now you will get reception even if this does have to lay flat. In whatever position you'll be able to find some sort of reception. When it is all the way up, pull this plate a bit further down and then you can spin that whole aerial if you still need to get a bit better reception. Otherwise just make sure they're realigned for travel, because if they are off center like that, it will not lower and sit itself into the bracket correctly. So we must have both arrows completely aligned. Now we can just wind it down nice and simply. So yeah, there's not much I can really tell you about the TV because it is just a standard smart TV. Just make sure you auto tune it between areas of camp. Sirocco fans, again, these will not switch off with that isolator. Nice and simple to use them. You've got the fan speed both sides at the top and you have the timer down the bottom both sides. Just make sure you've turned them off correctly. On the 4th click, we'll turn them off. You've latched this one back down before travel. Otherwise we have got an extra 240 cord here and some feet for the TV if you ever do require that. Now if you just want to sneak the camera over here and check out this white plate on the wall. You might not have much of an idea of what's going on there. And on the outside you might find this little piece and wonder what it could be. So just a little cover to cover the exact same piece on the other side. That is just allowing you to get an aerial cord into the caravan. If you had a portable satellite, if you had, you know, some sort of provisional device you want to get into the caravan but must be wired through the wall. So now for the air conditioner, the microwave and the washing machine and also the fridge, I would really like you to go through your manual, check them out because they'll give you a lot more information than I can now. Like, you know, the air conditioner, you want to make sure you're not consuming too much power if you are using a generator. Washing machine, you don't want to be using large heavy loads and wasting all your water or, you know, potentially damaging that unit on your wall. So please go through your manuals. Remember, they're all in that big blue book there. Alright, so really what we want to know about here is the electrics, because that's the only real bit that's going to throw you off potentially. So we can see on the right here, this black unit is your Red Arc battery management system. Don't worry about that unit in here. You're controlling it all by the module up top. Something you may have to worry about is a fuse blowing, and if that fuse blows, the red light will come on next to the fuse that has blown. So, if there's no red lights on next to any of the fuses, you're laughing. Not one of these. You then have the 12 volt 40 amp battery protector here it is set to off and cut down to 10 volts. We want it left like that. That device there is the 12 volt isolator switch at the door well. So if we play with that, we cannot use our isolator switch anymore. So do not use that device. The red arc will cut off any power necessary when necessary. Otherwise you shouldn't have to open this cupboard at all, besides potentially changing a fuse. That's about it. So we'll shut this one up and we'll forget about that. So again, fuses. Fuse blows, red light comes on. So no lights on, fuses are fine. This is our first fuse point. We were just looking at the second yellow fuse point down there. The third and final fuse points are on top of your battery. So on top of your battery or batteries, we will have a few fuse links in there, just protecting anything that needs to be fused. Otherwise, we'll go straight into your BMS, your battery management system. So Red Arc, a very smart system. We are going through the settings by using the down arrow, and when you get into one of these settings, you can go a bit deeper by pressing right. That will allow you to do whatever it's allowing you down the bottom. So home screen, don't really need to worry about that. Second screen down. Now this is the most important screen. See that 100%? Your batteries will cut off at 25%. So you only have usage of that first 75%. So don't let it get to 25% and cut off, because it will take a while to switch back on once you get charged back into it. Think of your 30-35% as your dire straits. That's when you really want to think about turning everything off and getting some charge into the van. You can then see down the bottom, if we press the right arrow, it will go into our charge log. That is SOC, state of charge per the hour. And if we go across again, it's state of charge per the day. So I'm going to clear these logs. In a week or two after having the van, come back in, check it out, see how much charge you're getting or whatever you're doing. You can monitor most with this system. Next screen down is that input status. We can see straight away we're in the sun, plenty of solar coming in. 240 and the car are disconnected, so clearly we're getting no power from those at all. Otherwise, if we press the right arrow, we can see solar info, giving you your day's total and the present watts. You can also scroll down, see previous days, but again, I am going to clear this log. So when you're out in the sun, free camping, come and check this, see how much solar you're actually getting. Next screen down is by far my favorite. It's as simple as following the arrow. So we can see the light, so the 12 volt power, and the battery, so your caravan's battery, being given power, being given those amps, and clearly it's being drawn from the BMS. So the BMS is getting enough solar to upkeep the 12 volt power and also bring a little bit more down to the battery. Otherwise, just look at the arrows. It will tell you how much power you are bringing in, consuming, or grabbing from whatever source. Overall charging status down at the very bottom. You shouldn't really have to worry about this one because, of course, you have your battery in percentage, so you don't have to worry too much about volts. Down the bottom, it says you can change mode, storage or touring. I generally just say leave it on touring because changing it over to storage is pretty much doing what that 12 volt isolator switch is already doing. It might reduce 0.1 amps of power. Not enough to really worry about that. Otherwise, back to the home screen. So all I need you to remember about this, 25%, your power will be cut off. That's it. One of those things that can really help your power cut off quickly is the inverter. So your inverter is a 600 watt, so it's really not the biggest, so you've only got 2 power points wired up. They are the driver's side of the bed and the power point under the couch. They are the 2 power points that have the double USB inputs. That's how you know they're inverted. So simply turn this on. You've got 600 watts of power to both those power points. That's it. Load percentage is going to tell you how much of that 600 watts you're using, then watts, exactly what in the watt reading, and of course voltage, which you don't have to worry about because you have your battery into percentage. So turn this off. It will not turn off or turn on by anything besides you physically pressing this button. And now the second this is turned on, it is drawing power, even if you're not using those power points. So when free camping, storing, even on grid, I would just generally say always leave that off unless you're using those power points. Otherwise, all your water stuff down the bottom is pretty simple. We'll just have a look at this AC switch. It stands for air conditioner. That's just there in case we need to isolate the air conditioner for whatever reason, just because you can't find a 240 power point. But we'll leave that on because we don't have to worry about isolating that. We have no problems. Water pump. You can just generally leave that on, but I'd get into the habit of turning it off when using water mains and turning it off when free camping, because it's just consuming power for no reason. So, of course, when you're on a campsite and you have their garden hose plugged into the water mains, it bypasses the pump. You can forget about it. Otherwise, when you're using your pump, you just need to make sure when you're going cross country, when you want to use it, or even when you have filled tanks, purge the air out of the lines. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of shuddering from that pump. Just make sure you've purged all the air out, so then when you do use it, it's not gurgling every time and consuming too much power. So, I'll repeat that again. When using the water pump or filling the water tanks, just make sure you've come back in and purge the air out of the lines. When it comes to using your hot water, same rules apply. So electric, that is the 240 plug-in. So plug that power point in, flick a switch, purge the air out of the lines. Go to both your sinks, open the hot water tap for just a couple of minutes or 30 seconds, just push that air out. So it can guarantee the Swift hot water tank is full and all the lines are purged with plenty of water in them. Otherwise, don't leave that on. If not, every time you plug into power, your water tank will start heating itself, which we don't want. It will only take 30 minutes to heat, so be patient. Gas hot water. That is your hot water when you're free camping and you haven't got that 240 plug-in. So it's as simple as turning the gas bottle on, flick that switch, then those same rules apply of going to the tap and opening the hot water just to purge the air out of the lines. Otherwise, that light will keep flickering until it's fully ignited, then it will remain on. So both of those systems, 30 minutes to heat. That's it. Purge the air out of the lines, you're laughing. Otherwise, last but not least, we then have the water tank gauges over here. And middle one should be your grey water at the rear. Other two are your normal tanks, which are both 3/4, and will be emptied equally by that single water pump. Again, if you're free camping, conserving power, turn that water screen off. You don't need it remaining on. Otherwise, you may have noticed in there you have got a little USB point for the stereo, just to plug in your phone or whatever you do need. So stereo, again, go through your manual if you want to know lots about it, but it is very straightforward. Just remember you can change the sound on all of those speakers. So, on the last click, it will take you to global, then you can control them all together. Otherwise, very straightforward stereo.